Hello everyone, welcome to Polity classes. Today we'll be dealing with chapter 9 NCERT Political Science Indian Constitution at Work. This chapter with the title Constitution as a Living Document. In this chapter we'll be dealing with this following content. In this chapter we'll see how Constitution of India has changed in last 55 years and how India has managed to be governed by the same constitution. So after reading this chapter, you will be able to answer that Indian constitution can be amended and Indian constitution can be amended according to the needs of the time. So it's not a static document. And you will see that in spite of many such amendments which has already taken place, the constitution remained intact and its basic premises has not changed. It means to say that even if the constitution has changed, the basic philosophy, the basic structure, the basic essence has not yet changed in spite of so many amendments in so many years. And another aspect we'll see, that is the role of judiciary. How judiciary has interpreted the constitution, and through this interpretation how it has evolved the constitution. For example, theory of basic structure. This is the example of par excellence. How according to the requirement of the time and the changes in the society, the interpretation of the constitution has been done by the judiciary to match the changes or to suit the changes in the society. Then we will also see that constitution as a document is not static. It keeps evolving and responding to the different situations. So with this intention, we'll begin this chapter. In this chapter, first we'll analyze whether the constitutions are the static document. This we can see from the example of Soviet Union and France. The Soviet Union had 4 constitutions in 74 years, 1918, 1924, 1936 and 1977. Finally, in 1991, when the rule of Communist Party of the Soviet Union came to an end and there was disintegration of USSR as a federation, there was a political upheaval which created the present day Russia, which adopted, although completely new constitution in 1993. So it does not mean that once the constitution has been created, the country will be ruled or will be governed according to that constitution for the eternal or for the all time to come. So constitutions do change and they do change frequently. This we can see from the example of the Soviet Union. Then you have seen that in France there was First Republic, there was Second Republic, there was Third Republic and there was Fourth Republic, and finally in 1958 it had Fifth Republic, which had another constitution. So it is for this many times the French society changed its constitution. Compared to these two societies, what do you think of India? How many times the constitution of India has changed since independence? Or prior to independence, did constitution of India had any kind of constitution? Was India ruled by any kind of constitution? And after independence, how many times, like Soviet Union and France, India has changed the constitution? India adopted its constitution on 26 November 1949 and it came into force on January 26, 1950. But after so many years, same constitution continues. And under the same constitution, government has continued to operate. What is the reason of this? Do you think that the constitution was so good and it was so finely prepared that it required no changes? Or the constitutional makers were so far-sighted that they created the perfect constitution which does not require any changes? Finally, what do you think? Constitutional changes are linked to political developments? In other words, whenever there are political changes, constitution also changes? So, we'll answer all these questions. Here, we'll see that why or how the same constitution has continued for so many years. What are the reasons behind it? The first reason is that our constitution accepts the necessity of modification according to the changing needs of the time. The Constitution of India does not denies itself to change with the change in society. If there is a change in society, Constitution of India can be changed. It is not that the Constitution of India cannot be changed. Then you will see that in the actual working of the Constitution, there has been very much flexibility of the interpretation. Both practical experience and judicial rulings have shown that the maturity and flexibility in the implementation of the Constitution. It is because of all these factors, our Constitution has become a living document rather than a closed and static rule book. In any society, the responsibility of drafting the Constitution at particular point of time faces a great challenge, that whether this Constitution will reflect the changes in the society. So, this challenge which every constitution framers faces while the framing of the Constitution. So, in this context, Indian Constitution has adopted two kind of approaches. First, that the Constitution is a sacred document, and also at the same time Constitution can be changed with a change in time. So we can conclude two things. Constitution of India is not a static document. It means that once it is created, there is no change is possible. And secondly, it's not everything. It's not unalterable. It means it's alterable. So this is the conclusion we can see. And how can we say that the Constitution of India is not static or unalterable? It is because of Article 368. Article 368 makes Constitution of India a living document. So now we shall see how the Constitution of India can be amended according to the requirements of the society or the changes in the society. You will see that according to Article 368, Parliament can exercise the constituent power, and by way of addition, variation or repeal, it can change any provision of the Constitution in accordance with the procedure which is laid down by this article itself. So what you can conclude from this, that first thing, Article 368 gives the power of constituent power. This constituent power means power to amend means change the Constitution of India. So this constituent power is conferred by Constitution on whom? Parliament, but not state legislature. Secondly, if the Constitution has to be amended, there is a definite procedure. This procedure is laid down in Article 368. So what is this procedure? Whether this procedure is good, bad, we'll see ahead. Following this procedure, Parliament can amend the Constitution, not state legislature. No state legislature in India has the power to amend the Constitution of India. It is only Parliament which has been vested with the constituent power. Constituent power means power to amend the constitution, and that too by following a procedure. And where this procedure is mentioned in which article? Not in 367 or 369. It is also mentioned in the same article which already gives the power to the parliament, that is article 368. So we'll also see that the constitution makers had created a balance, that constitution can be amended whenever there is requirement, but it should avoid unnecessary and frequent changes. So constitution has to be flexible wherever it required the changes, and it has to be rigid where it should prevent unnecessary and frequent changes. So when I say term flexible, or when I use the term flexible, flexible here in context of the constitution means open to changes, and the term rigid means resistant to change. So constitution that can very easily changed or modified will be called as flexible constitution. But in case of constitution which are very difficult to amend, they are called rigid constitution. So constitution of India is both flexible and rigid. So is it possible that the constitution of India can be rigid and flexible at the same time? Yes, of course. Indian constitution is the example. Then we'll see why there are different ways of amending the constitution. Constitution framers thought that there may be some fault or mistakes, because no constitution can be totally error free. So whenever these mistakes came to light, they have to be removed. So the procedure has to be simple to remove these faults and mistakes. Then there are some provisions in the constitution which are of temporary nature, which has to be altered later, and to alter the later procedure has to be simple. So there are some provisions which are related to federal polity. So rights and powers, duties and powers of the states, which are units of federation, cannot be changed without the consent of states. So this requires a difficult procedure, because it requires the consent of the state. Some features of the constitution which are so important that forms the spirit of the constitution, so they should be protected from the change. In this sense, constitution has to be made rigid. So it is because of all these consideration there are different ways of amending. If the amendment is related to the rectification of error, the procedure of amendment will be simple. If the amendment is related to the changes in the rights of states, amendment will be more difficult. If the amendment is changing the spirit of constitution, again it will be very difficult or rigid. So you will see that the procedure for changing the constitution is rigid and flexible both at the same time. So there are different ways of amending the constitution. First we will see that the constitution can be amended by simple majority. And if you want to change the constitution by simple majority, there is no special procedure. Neither there is any difference in the procedure to enact an ordinary law or to change the constitution with an amendment by simple majority. So wherever in the articles of the constitution the term bylaw has been used, it means the provisions can be modified by the parliament without the procedure laid down in the article 368, and it will be modified in the same manner as the ordinary law can be enacted. So Wherever the term bylaw has been used, it means constitution or that part of the constitution can be amended by simple majority. So what are the examples? Is the example article 2. So see here the term bylaw has been used. So whenever the parliament has to admit into the union the new state, it can do it by ordinary law or as the same by following the same procedure which is required in the ordinary law or by the simple majority. Then whenever the term is used by law, it means simple majority. It has been seen in Article 3. Parliament may increase area, boundary, etc. by simple majority. Under Article 3, Constitution has empowered Parliament to alter name, area and boundary of any state. For example, Uttaranchal, Uttarakhand became Uttaranchal. Bangalore became Bengaluru. So all these changes in the amendment was done by simple majority. Why? Because the term by law has been used in Article 3, which means that law as you can as Parliament can pass an ordinary law, in the same manner Parliament can amend the Constitution. So what about the remaining articles? How can they be changed? Remaining articles or parts of the Constitution can be changed with the procedure provided in Article 368. According to Article 368, if Constitution has been amended, there are two methods. In method 1, special majority of 2 houses is required. In method 2, special majority and consent of the half of the state legislature has been required. So till now we have seen 3 methods of amending the Constitution. Total we have seen 3 methods of amending the Constitution. First, by simple majority, second by special majority, and third special majority and half of the state legislatures. So till now we have seen 3 different ways of changing the Constitution. Second and third is mentioned under Article 368, and this is not inside Article 368 but outside the Article 368. So we have also seen that all the amendments are initiated only in Parliament. No other agency outside the Parliament can initiate the Constitution amendment. It means there is no separate body or the commission or the Constitution Commission which is created for amending the Constitution. Similarly, after the passage of Parliament, in some cases, state legislature does not require to have a referendum for the ratification of the amendment. Now you see that what happens if any of the state requires some amendment in the Constitution. Can they initiate or propose the amendment? No. In India, they cannot initiate an amendment. Only Parliament can initiate an amendment. So this is another example where the Constitution of India gives more power to the center vis-a-vis state. Then you will see in cases of bills, when these bills go to the president for the assent, president has no power to send it back for reconsideration. So in case of a bill which is passed by simple majority to amend the constitution, this bill will go to president. But whenever that bill is related to constitution amendment bill, which is called CAB in short form, the assent of president is obligatory. So this process underlies an important principle that only elected representatives of people are empowered to consider or take the decision on the question of amendment. And the sovereignty of the elected people is the basis of the amending procedure, that in case of amending procedure, it is based on the concept of parliamentary sovereignty, that the ultimate power lies in the parliament, and in context of amendment, parliament is the sole body to have right to amend the constitution. So we have seen till now simple majority. All above discussion was related to simple majority. What we are reading three manner in which Constitution of India can be amended. We have seen the first method through which Constitution of India can be amended. Now we'll see the second method through which Constitution of India can be amended. Now we have seen that ordinarily Constitution can be amended by simple majority. But there are other two kinds of majority, special majority. In this special majority, those voting in the favor of amendment bill should be at least half of the total of the strength. Secondly, the supporters of the Constitution Amendment Bill must constitute two-thirds of the people actually taking part in the voting, and both this should be passed separately by the house. It means amendment bill has to be passed separately by each house, and there cannot be joint session in case of deadlock. So what is the significance of this majority? We'll see here that Constitution Amendment Bill requires special majority also. This special majority will include two things: 50%, more than 50% of the total strength of the house, and more than two-thirds of the present and voting, those who are present and voting. So this is will constitute special majority. And for example, we will see that if Lok Sabha constitutes of 545 members, then any amendment will require minimum support of 273 members, that is 50% of the total. And if any time 300 members are there who are present and voting, then in that case an amendment bill must get the support of 273 people out of that. But imagine what if 400 members of the Lok Sabha voted on the amendment bill. What do you think? How many members should support the bill to get? That is two-thirds of 400. That is two-thirds of present and voting. This will never change. 50% of the total, which will be always be 273, which is out of 545. So this quantity will remain static, but this quantity will change frequently. You should keep this in mind. In case if you have any doubt, kindly contact me. Now we'll see that the Constitution Amendment Bill is called as CAB, Constitution Amendment Bill. When it is introduced in Parliament, it has to be passed and then it is sent to the President, and the assent of the President is obligatory because of the parliamentary sovereignty in case of the amending procedure. And in case if this bill is related to the special majority, then the ratification by half of the state legislature is also required. Apart from special majority we have seen previously, it means two things: 50% of the total and two-thirds of present and voting, the example we have seen earlier. So you will see that in some countries even more rigid majorities are required to amend the constitution. First is Russia. In some cases it required two-thirds, in some countries it requires 3/4. We'll see that in India only Parliament can initiate the amendment, but in Switzerland even the people can initiate the amendment. Forget the state legislatures. So these are some variations in the amending procedure. So we have seen that until and unless there is sufficient consensus in the Parliament, the amendment cannot be passed. And if any political party is enjoying very thin majority in the parliament, that it does not have the ability to approve the amendment. So, according to Ambedkar, the basic principle behind the majority or the amending procedure is public opinion. There should be sufficient public opinion which is reflected through parliament in case of the amendment of procedure. If this sufficient public opinion is not there, then the amendment is not possible because these political parties will not enjoy broad support. Okay, so till now we have seen the second method of amending the constitution, that is by special majority. Now we'll see that whenever any amendment is related to the federal provision, then the ratification of the states is also required. For example, if the amendment is changing the distribution of power between central and state government, then the states should give their consent. Okay. In federalism, states are not to be at the mercy of the central government, and this amendment will require the ratification by half of the state. It means amendment bill has to be passed in the state legislature, and out of all the states, half of the state legislature has to pass the amendment bill before the amendment comes into effect. So this was the third method of the amendment. Now we can summarize that the Constitution of India can be amended through consensus plus limitation participation of the states. And Constitution of India is not open to easy tampering. Future generations have complete right to amend and modify the constitution according to the requirements of the time. So this was all about the amending procedure in the Constitution of India and its conclusion. Now we'll see the actual experience, that since independence, how many times the amendment has been done. What is the content of this amendment? Was these amendments required? If they have been done, in retrospect, if you think, were these amendments useful? So we'll consider all these things now and we'll see the amendments so far. Why there has been so many amendments? If our constitution is so perfect, why we require amendment? Constitution of India was which completed 56 years on 26 January 2006, and till that time 93 times Constitution of India was amended. In this context, we will be seeing through graphical presentation, two graphs will be there, graph 1 and graph 2. Graph 1 will show the number of times a constitution has been amended in every 10 years, and graph 2 will show if there are 10 amendments, how much time it will require. So content is same, but it has been reflected in two different graphs. From these two different graphs, what you can conclude that 2 decades from 1970 to 1990 saw a large number of amendments. So what do you think? Why our constitution has been amended so many times? Is there something wrong with the society or the constitution? These are the two graphs which we need to understand. These two graphs we'll now see in detail. If you will see the political history of India, two periods are very important, first and the second. In the first period, you will find the Congress party's domination not only in the center but in the states. In center, the Congress party had 352 seats in Lok Sabha, and the Congress party was in power in majority of the states. The another phase was around 2000 and 2003, when no political party used to get the majority as the Congress. So this period was marked by the coalition politics, where different political parties of different kind of ideologies used to come to power through common minimum program. And these different parties were in power in different times. Bitter rivalry was there between BJP and its opponent during this period. And you will see that during this period 10 amendments were done in just 3 years. So the incident of amendment does not completely depend only on the majority of the ruling party, because there were many amendments when Congress party was in majority, and there were many amendments when no party had a majority. So if a particular party is having a majority, that does not mean the constitution can be amended frequently. If we'll see this graph 1, this graph 1 shows that during the decade of 1970 there were more than 20 amendments. See, during 51 and 60 there were less than 10 amendments. But during this phase 71 to 90 there were more than 20 amendments. And it was between 71 and 90 the Congress party had the majority. Then you will see graph 2. Graph 2 reflects how many years is required for 10 amendments. For 10 amendments. So this is the least number of times an amendment has been done, and this is the highest number of time. So kindly go through this graph, you will be able to understand. Now we'll see the criticisms. What are the criticism? The criticism of the amendment is that too many amendment has been done. 93 amendments in 55 years. Two graph will show this is not due to only political consideration. Except the first decade, every decade there has been steady stream of amendments. What does this mean? That irrespective of the political conditions of the society, constitution required amendment. So do you think it was because of some inadequacies in the original constitution, or the constitution is too flexible? This we'll see by going through the contents of amendment so far.